51 games.
51 games.
Yeah, 51.
Damn.
And then the 52nd game, Angry Birds, came on. And everybody knows how to walk on water. And then it's like, yeah, but isn't that like impossible? But actually, when you come to Finland, like this time of year in the winter, it's very easy because the water is frozen. It went from like student project to a brand that 9 out of 10 people on the planet knew.
Every legendary story has a plot twist. It became so critical, like it became trending on Twitter. At the end, Rovio was sold to Sega.
Yep.
What exactly went wrong? So hello everyone. Today we have with us Mr. Peter Vesterbacka. Did I pronounce that right?
It's okay. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So his name might be difficult to pronounce, but his other name is super crazy and super easy. The Mighty Eagle. Now, my generation does not need introduction to the Mighty Eagle, but for the other people, let's start the conversation with the introduction of the Mighty Eagle, like in movies, in games, and in real life. I think this answer will lead automatically to the origin of the Angry Birds and the story of those 3 students.
Sure. Yeah. So that Mighty Eagle title and nickname actually comes from my time at Rovio. So the Rovio got started actually all the way back in 2003. In 2003, then our friends at Nokia, another great Finnish company, they were still making phones. They came out with the first smartphones. So this was many years before, the iPhones and Android and all of that. And always when you have like a new platform, in this case like the smartphones, a new platform that you can program, of course you need games. Yeah. And then organized a game making competition in 2003. In order to make the best possible mobile multiplayer game. And multiplayer because at HP we wanted to supply like all this like boring infrastructure to run these games. And then 3 young guys, 3 young students from Aalto University in Finland, they took part in this competition. So Niklas, Kim and Jarno. They not only did they take part, they won the competition. And then after winning this game making competition, they came to me and said that, like Peter, we're students here at Aalto, we won the competition, what should we do? And then I always have the same advice that I had for them, for everybody, for like, it's really important that you should do what you love to do. So, like they love making games, why don't you start a company to make games? Because, that's what you love to do. Yeah. And they did. They started Rovio in 2003, and then over the following 6 years, they made 51 games.
51 games.
Yeah, 51.
Yeah.
And then, in 11th of December 2009, the 52nd game, Angry Birds, came out. So it wasn't the first or second or even third, it was the 52nd game. And then Angry Birds, of course, then went on to become the fastest growing consumer brand ever. 91% of people here in India, 3% in China knew the brand. So you could say that it went from like student project to a brand that 9 out of 10 people on the planet knew. So that's let's say pretty amazing. And I was the Mighty Eagle there for many years, and my job was to kind of like a little bit like the Mighty Eagle like in the games and the movies, to kick in the doors, open the doors, like all of that. We did all kinds of like amazing things during that time. I think that it was a great kind of like learning experience for everybody involved, because we learned that that impossible is nothing. So there are very, very few things that actually are impossible. So as long as you don't have to break any like laws of nature or anything, like you can get stuff done. And we did. And it's also what was very interesting, like early days of Angry Birds. I went back to then like Silicon Valley. I went to a VentureBeat event. And then after my talk, then there's this like elderly gentleman that came up to me and said like, "Hey Peter, you're like a Rovio, right?" I said, "Yeah, like that's where I work." And then he said that, "Could I have my picture taken with you?" And then I was like, "What is this? This is weird. Why would anybody like to have their picture taken with me?" But then I realized that we have so many fans like all over the planet that we can make Angry Birds not only big but huge. So then I went back to to Finland, back to Rovio headquarters, and then I told the guys there that, hey guys, we're gonna go for $100 million. And then $100 million now is okay, yeah, what's a big deal? But back then, big deal. Yeah, so like not a lot. But anyway, it was a lot then because we still had flyers at the office, with like Angry Birds over 500,000 downloads. So the size of the market was like tiny compared to what it is nowadays. And also 100 million, nobody had achieved that. I mean, Tetris had been around for 20 years at that time, and not even Tetris had gotten to 100 million. And that Tetris was pretty much the biggest game like ever. So then, then managed to kind of convince people that okay, let's go for the 100 million. And then in the first first 12 months, we got to 50 million. Then Christmas 2010, we added another 25 million. So everybody got new iPhones, Androids, went to the App Store. What is number one? Oh, it is Redbird. Let's check it out, 25 million. And then in March 2011, we got to the impossible 100 million. So then we ordered like a few bottles of champagne from the kitchen, and then like cheers and back to work. So the Finnish way of like celebrating. So not a lot of emotion, and let's not get carried away here. But what was very interesting with that moment is that after that everything became, if not let's say easy, at least a lot easier. So then and also what happened was that the company grew from 12 people when Angry Birds came out to 850. I mean, we acquired animation studio, we expanded into like brand licensing, so consumer products in all forms and shapes, everything. And then when you asked the newcomers that were not there when the breakthrough happened, like you work at Rovio, what do you actually do? What does the company do? And then they say like, we make games, and then 100 million.
Actually, you became a brand, and you were into that animation and stuff. So they might have introduced somewhere like we are a big brand globally, right?
Yeah, but it's also that it just became one of these things that people just took it for granted that it's like normal that okay, we make a game, $100 million downloads. New game, 100 million, new game. So it was just, okay, it's like normal. Of course, it's not normal, but the point is that we learned how to do it. And I think that, I always use the example of Angry Birds Space, that when we launched that, we, of course, launched in space, on the ISS, on the International Space Station with NASA. And there's a brilliant launch video. Don Pettit, the astronaut who was up there on the ISS at the time, he made that. You can find it on YouTube. But we didn't stop at launching the game in space. We also took over the Space Needle, so that big tower in Seattle. So we took over the Space Needle, put a big red bird on that, so that everybody, all these people have their headquarters: Amazon, Microsoft, T-Mobile, Boeing, you name it. Many companies have their headquarters there in Seattle, so they all could see, like this big red bird from their window. And we of course amplified it then like social media, so everybody knew about that. We also made sure that you couldn't go in or out of a Walmart in the US without being exposed to the Angry Birds Space branding. And of course then we got to the 100 million. But then I always use this example that we learn how to do it, and this is also very true for life in general, that you can learn anything. So nowadays when I'm asked that, okay, you made Angry Birds, the fastest growing consumer brand ever, and nowadays, I mean, it's over 5 billion downloads, so crazy number. But how did you do that? And then I always say that, coming from Finland, I mean, everybody knows Finnish people, best marketeers on the planet. But then so there's that. But then always add that, okay, and then everybody knows how to walk on water. And then it's like, yeah, but isn't that impossible? Yeah, so also the 100 million was supposed to be impossible. So then walking on water, some people think it's impossible, but actually when you come to Finland, this time of year in the winter, it's very easy because the water is frozen. and I think that this is very much how the world works, that first, there are things that first you think that, oh no, we can never get to 100 million, we can never learn how to walk on water, but then you learn how to do it, and then it's easy. And I think that this is one of the things that I learned, that there are many things that you first think are impossible, but then you learn how to do it, and then it's easy. So I always encourage, young people, older people,
Yes,
that
yes, yes.
that you shouldn't give up, and you can always like figure out a way. And once
Yes.
you then learn, then after that, it's trivial, it's easy, and then you take it for granted. And I think that's what happened at Rovio, that we learn how to do this. And then basically we went on to billions of downloads. We got the first
in
movie
Guinness
out in
World Records. Yes.
2016. We did like a lot of things. We did the IPO. We had another goal to get to 1 billion. We did. So that was pretty cool. And I think that there's a lot of learnings in kind of like the Angry Birds experience, and I think it validated my like core beliefs that
Yes.
of course you can do anything.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So basically, this company was founded by those 3 students,
Yes,
right?
totally.
And you went there after little bit of recognition that yes, my kids made this game. I should promote this to
Yeah,
global level.
they said that they needed some help.
Yes,
in
and
North
exactly,
America,
this makes actually sense, because in the movie and in the game, the 3 characters, Red, Chuck, and Bomb, goes to the Mighty Eagle.
Yeah.
And so, was this intentional or what?
No, I think that's it's always difficult to say what is intentional, what not. But I mean, you can always find interesting analogies between reality and fiction. So yeah.
Now that we are talking about the movie, I have a little bit of personal complaint. The Mighty Eagle in the game, he is legendary, terrifying, god-like creature who destroys everything. But in the movie, he is so dumb, funny, out of shape guy who is just annoying. Why?
I think that it's you can do that with characters. So I think that's.
So were you involved in the writing of the movie, or?
But I was mostly involved in like the marketing of the movie. So we had then people who actually know what they're doing, writing the script and doing the animation and doing like all of that. But I think that again it turned out like really well, and it became like a really funny movie. And the first Angry Birds movie was the biggest movie based on the games, like originated IP. So that was like pretty good. Of course now like the Super Mario movie, of course, dwarfed that. So they did a great job. But I think that maybe also we gave a bit of inspiration to our friends at Nintendo to actually start doing more with their fantastic IP. I mean, they have really done, I think, a great job now with taking Mario, and now they're taking Zelda and all that to kind of like the big screen, and they've started doing parks just like we did, and so it's cool.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it's actually very inspiring, you can say, because taking a simple slingshot mobile game to a Hollywood level stuff and making a global entertainment brand is really a big deal. That's wonderful. Now, before moving to the next question, let's talk about a fun fact. Peter always wears a red hoodie.
Yes.
It is his signature outfit, to give a tribute to the Angry Birds. And you guys might have noticed, I am also wearing red shirt to give compliment to his legacy.
Very good.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's really wonderful. Now, moving towards the next phase, like after 2016. Every legendary story has a plot twist. And for Angry Birds, I think it was when we tried to move from traditional slingshot games to other formats like Angry Birds Pop or Angry Birds Go or Angry Birds Transformers, right? And some of them players did not like that much. And then, I don't know, something happened. Rovio had to lay off a lot of people. Then things went really hard for Rovio, and then Angry Birds 2 came out because players were not liking new format games, so we stuck towards the traditional slingshot game. So initially it went well, but then players were complaining that if we don't do the microtransactions in the game, the levels are getting harder and harder, and we are unable to play. After that, it became so difficult for Rovio, but then the movies came and it became a little bit comeback for Rovio. But after that also, somehow the original games were removed from the Play Store, and it became so critical. Like, it became trending on Twitter that bring back 2012. Remember when Rovio actually cared, and then for without any explanation, the classic Angry Birds game got removed from Play Store. I don't know what happened, but now also if you go through the internet, you can see a lot of videos saying how greed destroyed Angry Birds and all that stuff. I don't know what happened actually, because people are saying that stuff, and at the end Rovio was sold to Sega. So like, as a, you know, the mighty eagle of the company who built everything from scratch, what exactly went wrong? And it might be annoying for you to hear these kind of rumors or whatever it is.
I mean, basically, it is what it is, and also I can't really say too much about that, because all of that happened pretty much after I left. So I left after we got the first movie out, and I think that I mean, there's a lot of value and there's a lot of power in the brand. So I think that you could do a lot more with that. So if I look at it kind of like from outside perspective, I think that the brand is very much like underexploited. I mean, it's a fantastic brand. Everybody knows it. So I think that you can do a lot more around that. But then, I mean, basically how things then ended up is that Angry Birds and Rovio are now part of Sega, and I think that Sega needed Angry Birds to boost their like mobile presence and their mobile like skills and competencies. So I think it's very complementary for them, and then you know, we'll see how it turns out. But I think that it's a good combination. Of course, it would have been much better the other way around with Rovio and Angry Birds acquiring Sega, but you know, it is what it is.
So you worked for Rovio for around 5 to 6 years, or how many?
Yeah, a bit over 6 years, I think, something like that.
So I think this movie and all stuff came when you were...
yeah, the first movie, and after the first movie, then that's when I left. So
like, why did you left? Like, it was becoming a global brand, so
no,
don't you think
it was already I mean, it already was that, and I think it was a good time to leave, and I think you shouldn't do the same thing forever. I think that it's always good to get new, fresh, let's say, people into any company. So I think that is like very important, and I think that you know, it's change is good.
So the offer from Sega came, like, was it inbound or outbound? You guys?
No, that's basically. I mean, again, if I look at it kind of like more from like the outside, I think that it was. There's a lot of mergers and acquisitions. Then a lot of people wanted to be more present in like mobile. Mobile, of course, fastest growing and kind of the center of gravity if you look at gaming, like in general. So I think it made a lot of sense, and as far as potential like partners and acquirers, I think Sega is like a good match. It's very complementary if you look at like the skills. So I mean, it is what it is. Then you know, only time will tell how things then can like turn out.
Yeah. So Sega came, and then you guys made that deal.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. So like, from initial stages, you were into this tech and gaming stuff, and then you made a pivot. You shifted to, I think, education domain, right?
Yeah, so let's say that I have always been active in many different areas. So of course, Angry Birds is kind of like one of the more visible things that I've done. But I've always been involved in many different initiatives. Also, if you look at like how Angry Birds and Rovio came about, it started out this game making competition, and I've always been involved in a lot of these kind of like community and ecosystem building activities. So for me, I'm not surprised that then these kind of like great companies and these kind of great success stories emerge from the ecosystem that we have in Finland, and not only in Finland, I mean the whole finest Bay Area, so Finland, Estonia, Sweden. I mean, it's the most successful startup ecosystem anywhere on the planet. So it's you can expect great things, not just like Angry Birds. And of course, I mean, we've seen Supercell, Ilk and the guys, that's like the most successful games company like ever, and they're doing like amazing, and there's a lot more that has already come out of that ecosystem, and we can expect a lot more going forward. So yeah, I mean it's something that I always enjoy doing, and I think that it's important to enable the success of others. I think that is something that it's really really believe that is something that we all should be thinking about.
Yes, I think right now you are running a company of about education, right?
Yeah, several actually, but education I think is very important, because that's the only way that you can really do sustainable change, and I think that it's important, especially in the world we live in today, that we create some stability, some sanity, and I think education is where it all starts.
Yeah, I see. So, are you currently in touch with Rovio?
No, I mean, of course I know many of the people there, and I am in touch, let's say, now and then, so yeah.
Oh, I see. So, I think they are planning about Angry Birds 3 and all stuff.
Probably, yes. I wouldn't know anything about that, but there is, I mean, Angry Birds 3 in the form of the movie, that is already like public knowledge, and that's coming out this year, so yeah.
Yeah, but it was really a wonderful story which you told, because building a $1 billion empire and looking it acquired by someone else is a very rare experience a few of humans have in their life. So it was really nice interacting with you. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
As a final year engineering student, मैं $1 billion empire के फाउंडर के साथ इतना कॉन्फिडेंटली कैसे बात करना था? वेल, आप भी कर सकते हो, लेकिन इनको मिलने से पहले मैं पोगो, CNBC और TVF के लेजेंड से भी मिला हुआ हूँ. अब मैं उनको कहाँ पे मिला, क्या बात हुई, कॉन्फिडेंस कहाँ से आया, ये पूरी कहानी मैं ऑलरेडी बता चुका हूँ. तो जब तक हाउ आई मेट एंग्री बर्ड्स फाउंडर वाला वीडियो चैनल पे नहीं आता, तब तक आप उसको चेकआउट कर सकते हो, और ये नया वीडियो मिस ना हो उसके लिए आप चैनल को सब्सक्राइब भी कर सकते हो. सो मिलते हैं अगले वीडियो में. बाय.